I've gone with a monochrome look today, so I've got white pearls, grey pearls, charcoal pearls even, and then a light grey, and I've got some sparklies and some hematite. Great thing about this design is you can put whatever you want on. I usually stick loosely to a colour theme, but it's up to you. Okay, so now we've got 8 strands of wire, and so we want to roughly distribute the beads evenly between these wires. At first you think, well, this is never going to come together, but it does. So first I'm going to take 2 strands, and I'm going to thread on one of my smaller beads. Generally I start smaller and then work into the larger beads in the centre. So I'm going to thread on one of these little hematites here. They're nice little 6mm rounds. And so there's one on, and then I'm going to I've thread 2 strands through one bead. For my next bead I'm going to take one of those strands that have gone through the bead and just link it with another 2. So this time I've got 3 strands going through a bead. Sometimes you'll have 3 strands going through, sometimes you'll have 1, sometimes you'll have 4. Don't get too hung up on how many is going through. Just put them in. If it looks right, then it's right. Okay, and then I think I'm going to put another smaller bead down on this side so that it comes in here. Can you see that? Okay, so it comes in around here. Now the beads will naturally sit sort of side by side rather than on top of each other. So there we go. So there's the start of our bracelet. So again, every time you put your next bead on, take one of the strands that have gone through one of the beads and then link it to one that maybe hasn't, or has gone through a different bead, depending on how many strands you've got on here. So this time I'm taking one that's gone through this little jet faceted bead here, and one that hasn't gone through a bead at all yet. 2 strands. I'm going to put it through a grey one now, a light grey. Okay, and then again we're going to take one that hasn't had a bead on yet. You'll see where the beads need to go. You'll see gaps and you'll think, oh, I need a bead in there. So you'll pick up the strand that's appropriate and pop a bead in. I'm going to go for a hematite in there again, I think. Put the bead on. There we go. And then here I'm going to put 3 strands through. Can you see what I've got is two strands coming out of this pearl here, 2 strands coming out of here, and I've got 1 strand sort of left out of, it's been left out, and then I want to bring that back into the design. So I'm going to pull this strand on the outside in and match it with these 2. And like I said, sometimes you'll have 3 strands going through, sometimes you'll have 2, and sometimes you'll just have 1. So now I'm going to put a dark grey bead. I'm missing that colour at the moment. Through all 3 strands. There we go. And now we've got this pattern coming together. I think you can see now it's starting to come together. Right, and I can see there's a gap here, so I'm going to take one of these strands that's coming through this pearl and one that's coming through this hematite and link those together. And you can see I've got a gap in my pattern for a white or for a plain pearl. So I'm going to pop this pearl on. There we go, it's starting to come together now. I'm going to put one on this edge here. I'm going to go for another jet, I think. There we go. Now we're starting to get this pattern. Now, it's good to just keep looking at your design and see where you think the next bead goes. There's no rigidity to it. It's not a formal pattern. You'll sort of see where it needs to go, which strands need pulling in, which colour needs to be in next. And there you go. I think hopefully we've got the gist of that now. It's fairly random. There's no laws or rules really. Just by eye. Okay. And you know, if it goes wrong, you can just take it apart. You can just take one off and think, oh, I'll put a different colour there, or I think I'll bring this strand into play. Okay, there we go. It's this lovely design, this lovely pattern coming together now. So I'm going to show you how we tie it up at the end. So you can see I've got 3 strands now going through, because I want to bring those all together. There. And then this one needs to come in. In fact, you can see what I've done. I think I need to take a strand out. I think I need to bring these into the design more. So I'm going to take just one strand out of that hematite. Trial and error. One strand out of there, and I'm going to bring that one in. I'm going to put something there. I'll go for a dark grey pearl, I think. Yeah, that's better. And then I can bring another pearl on there. Right, for now I'm going to leave that like this. You can see how the design comes together. You just keep popping them on where they're needed and using as many strands as you need to keep that sort of effect coming in together. So there you go, it's looking like that. Right, let's show you how to finish it off. Okay, so now we've got all these straggly ends, and they're not very attractive if you don't end the bracelet properly. You don't want to ruin your hard work by making a scraggy end. So what we'll do is we'll take all the ends, and this is why you don't use a crimp, because you can imagine you have to get 8 cords through and then double it back, so that will be 16 through a crimp, and that's just doesn't work really. So what I do is I take all my ends through the other end of my clasp, and in this case I've got a little hook and eye. So a bit of patience getting them all through. There we go. So I take them right down to the end of my design, leaving myself enough space to put my coil in so that it matches the other side. Okay, so I've got them through, and then double it back on itself, pull it nice and firmly and give it a pinch. Pinch it firmly with your fingers. Okay, nice and firm, so that it keeps that crease. Right, so hold that tight. Get your other piece, get you another piece of wire, again about 20-25 centimetres. Again, I always cut more than I need. You can use the ends use the bits that you cut off for earrings, or head pins, eye pins. But if you haven't got enough, well, for one, you don't want to be joining bits of wire, because that's more edges to catch on and more bits to tuck in. And the other reason you don't want to be using lots of bits of wire is it's really hard on the fingers. Trying to manipulate a coil with a really short piece of wire is hard work, and you get an untidy coil. Using a long piece of wire gives you leverage, so you can get a nice smooth spiral. So I'm going to pop, again the same as I did the first time, I'm going to pop the wire through the loop that all the other beading wires have gone through, and that anchors it. Okay, fold it over. You're always pulling it quite firm, and that takes a bit of practice, sort of holding and coiling all at the same time, but keep on with it, because once you can do these, you can end any necklace or bracelet or any piece of jewellery really neatly. Okay, so I've got that coming through. You can see the wire is doubled right through there. I hope you can see that at least. And then take your long end and pull it around. It will come out of shape a little bit, that's fine, you can keep adjusting. Really tug on it so it's tight. Remember, this is acting as your crimp, it's not just decoration, so it needs to be really tight. So you're pulling and twisting, pulling around the top, pushing underneath, pulling over the top, and pushing it round, and pulling over the top, pushing it round, pulling, pushing, there we go. And we've got it started, it's much easier. Okay, so again, about half of our spirals complete there. Just push it up with your fingers if it seems to be slipping down a bit. And tidy that up. Okay, so you've got about half your spiral. Now this is the time you want to chop off all your strands, all your straggly ends. Okay, so there they all are. Make sure you cut the right ones, otherwise you'll be starting again. We have beads everywhere. And then just, actually what I find is if you cut them slightly graduated, you're not going to get this sudden drop off or sudden change in the size or shape of your coil. It will gradually get smaller. Just a little tip there for you. So I'm going to cut those quite high up, and then take another 2 or 3, cut them slightly longer. And the next one's slightly longer again, not too long because we don't want a massive coil, and then that piece of wire obviously has got to come off as well. Right, there we go. We've got them all off, all chopped down, and then just keep twisting that long end of wire round and round and round until you've covered all your ends up. And if it gets a bit loose, your coil, just push it up with your thumb. And keep going. There. Push it up with your thumb. Okay, that's enough. I've covered all the loose ends. I snip it off, and again, flat nose pliers, and you see the little sticky outy bit of wire there. We don't want that because that is going to catch on somebody's clothes or scag their arm, and that would be awful. So we just take our pliers and pinch it down. I'll do it and show you at the same time. There we go, pinch, just pinch it in. There, that's pinched in, and that's also going to be crimping as well, so it's dual purpose. Alright, so obviously this is a bracelet for somebody very tiny, but you can see the idea. I just wanted to show you the start and the end really. So there you go, there's your bracelet, and I've got my own hook and eye on there, but you can put any old clasp, and like I said, a magnetic clasp works really well because that's nice and easy for somebody to do up one-handed. Right, I hope you find that useful, and I hope that you have a go and post me your results and see how you get on with it. And also, if you've got any variations on the design, just put a comment in it. It would be lovely to share that with anybody else that comes on the site and wants to have a go. And again, if you've got any requests for more tutorials, it's nice to be guided by you rather than me thinking up things to show you that you already know or you don't want to know. So it'd be lovely to hear from you. Good night and happy Easter.